Hi Arrows, I'm Kashan and you are watching The Book Archer. Today we are doing my July wrap up. I read a total of 9 books in the month of July. I participated in the Biannual Bibliothon, the Reading Rush formerly known as the BookTubeathon. Read a total of 6 physical books and then listened to 3 audiobooks. Let's jump right into it. So the first book that I read this month was A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. This book follows Charlotte and Jamie, who are direct descendants of Sherlock Holmes and Watson. So in this story's universe, Sherlock and Watson were real people, and you kind of get to see like what would have happened if they were real and their direct family line. It's told from the perspective of Watson, who is shipped off to a boarding school in Connecticut where he meets Charlotte for the first time, and their first encounter does not go well. Then someone ends up dead and they have to solve the mystery because the murder is set up like Sherlock Holmes style. So they are the 2 top suspects. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed it. This is one of the books that I listened to on audiobook. It is the first book in a 4-book series and I will be continuing on with this series. I thought that it had the perfect mixture of mystery. I thought that they did really good jobs at touching on familial issues. They touched on sexual assault a little bit, and then there's also the issue addressed of drug use, which I'm not really sure I like how they handled that. It was a little too casual for me, but I do think that it was interesting that it was included in this story because all of these topics were brought up, but the story did not feel heavy. I would suggest this for fans that are just getting into the mystery genre. I feel like the mystery just kind of helped us to introduce to these characters, but I really can't wait to see where this series goes. The second book that I read this month is Defy Me by Tahereh Mafi. Y'all know I had been talking about reading this earlier this year. This is the 5th book in the Shatter Me series. I will have to say that I definitely enjoyed this a lot more than I enjoyed Restore Me. I read Restore Me, I was a little like, but this one was definitely better. This had the angst that was missing in the other books that Tahereh does so well with these characters that we love. And this is also the first book that I believe we get Kenji's perspective. Some of the conflict and things was starting to make sense in here. I liked seeing my characters back in the mental space that I was used to seeing them in. This for me is definitely a very character driven story. The plot and the dystopian world plays a background to it. If you enjoy those characters and you enjoy seeing them overcome a lot of their issues, then you will enjoy this. I will leave a link down below to my review of the original Shatter Me trilogy. So the next book, one of the books that I was mostly highly anticipating for the year of 2019. I meant to read this months ago, but I also didn't want to read this until I was like 100% in the mood to read it. So that is On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. This is Angie Thomas's sophomore novel and the second book that's set in the same universe as The Hate You Give. As you guys know, I love The Hate You Give. It's one of my favorite books of all times now. I wasn't nervous going into On the Come Up. I was going to be surprised if I didn't enjoy it. But On the Come Up does not follow anyone from the first books. It's just set in the same neighborhood. This one follows a main character named Bree, the daughter of a local rapper that was murdered when she was a baby. And this is basically her story of trying to come up as a rapper and really just trying to find herself. I honestly feel like when I read this, it was more of a coming of age story than like what people realize. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and honestly y'all, Angie Thomas, I would literally buy anything that she writes. She has a way of painting any narrative and making you care about the characters. I will say that this one was definitely not as heavy as The Hate You Give. So if The Hate You Give was just something that you were interested in but you didn't know if you could like take it to read it, then I definitely suggest picking up On the Come Up. I love Angie Thomas's writing style. I liked all of the characters in this book. I liked the issues that it touched on, especially with the way that we use social media and present ourselves to the world. I liked the issues that it touched on with familial issues when it focused on the poverty that Bree, her family, was dealing with. I love this so much, and I will be doing a review on this book as well as A Study in Charlotte. I've already written up my notes and everything for it. Y'all, I'm working on it, okay? Okay, so we're gonna go from my highest rated book of the month to my lowest rated book of the month, and this is just the order that I read them in. This is Aurora Rising by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. Y'all, if you watched my vlog, my bookish vlog, you saw me going on a little minty rant about this book in there. I will leave a link down to that vlog below. I read this as the group book for the Biannual Bibliothon. This was the final Biannual Bibliothon, so I wanted to read the group book. And honestly, if it had not been for that readathon, I would have DNF'd this. I gave this 2 stars. I did not enjoy it. The plot, because it was non-existent. I did not enjoy the 7 perspectives of these 7 characters who are all in the same place at the same time for 98% of the story, so I didn't even need 7 perspectives. And then not only that, but out of the 7 perspectives that we got, there was only 1 character that I actually really liked. And this also felt like a cheap knockoff of all the other sci-fi series that I've ever heard of or read or saw. Like, y'all, this was Guardians of the Galaxy, this was Star Trek, this was Firefly. So there were so many things about this that I just did not enjoy. I was shocked. Y'all always talk up Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. This is the first thing that I've ever read by Kristoff. I was really thinking about picking up Nevernight, but y'all are making me so nervous. I'm gonna have to lower my expectations because this was not a good experience for me. I don't remember the last time I rated a book 2 stars, but let's just move on from that. Next book that I read in the month of July is Calling My Name by Liara Tamani. The premise of this book is it follows the span of Taja's adolescence. It goes from the time she starts middle school until the time that she finishes high school in her senior year. You get like a snapshot of her life. Set in Houston, her family is very heavily faith-based, so I was really excited to read this one because it follows a black girl. Woo. Y'all, a huge dog just tried to come on my patio just now and literally scared the crap out of me. My patio is like right there. Back to this. Like I was saying, this had the makings for a lot of elements that I thought that I would really enjoy. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it. I would read something else by her, but my main issue with this is since the book followed such an extended period of time, you only got little snapshots of Taja's life in that time period, so you can never really get attached to any part of the story. The parts of the story that I really enjoyed the most were the ones that we spent more time with. That just kind of let me know that if there was a different type of story set up, that I would really enjoy it. You might enjoy it, it just necessarily wasn't the 5-star read for me. The next book was like an unexpected, it was just, I don't even know. I listened to The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee on audio, and I really freaking enjoyed this a lot. I think a lot of the reason why I enjoyed this is because I did not ever read the synopsis. I really didn't know what this book was about going into it, so I had like 0 expectations. I just thought that it was about historical fiction and this main character. I didn't know that it was going to get a male-male romance. And then Percy, oh my gosh, I love Percy's character so much. The main character in here was so snarky and so fun. He was a mess, but I enjoyed him a lot. And then all of a sudden random stuff just starts to happen more than what I thought I was going to get from a historical fiction, and I kind of liked that it mixed it up. I liked the surprises in there because, like I said, I just thought that I was just reading standard historical fiction story, but this had historical fiction, it had adventure, it had romance. It had a lot of elements that I really enjoyed. I liked all of the characters in here. They talk about a lot of prevalent issues, especially during this time period. This was such a fun ride. I'm so glad I picked this up. Oh my goodness, and the audiobook for this was so bomb. After that, I decided to pick up With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. And y'all, I think I like this better than The Poet X. This gave me all of my character-driven needs. I really like character-driven stories, and I liked Imani's perspective. I loved her as a character, so it was so fun to really read about her life experiences. This follows Imani Santiago, who is a senior. She's basically trying to decide what is she going to do with her life after high school, especially because a few years prior she had a baby, so she's a teen mother. You get to see so much in this story. Not only were the cooking elements and things like that fun, but she wants to be a chef, so there are a lot of culinary arts that go along with this story. It was just so exciting to read about a character who had a specific passion for something, and they were trying to navigate what to do with that passion and that creativity. That's not something that I see a lot in the fiction books that I read. I love that this followed a few years after she had her child, so it just wasn't about teen pregnancy. It was very much more so about teen motherhood. I love the love interest in here because it's so subtle. It's like dessert. It's not even the main course of the book, but it is like this little satisfying extra thing because I've never really seen a black male character portrayed in the way that the love interest is, and I enjoyed him a lot. Elizabeth Acevedo, she really does it for me. The next book I read in the month of July was The Forgotten Girl by Angie Hill Brown. Yes, y'all, I finally read this. So this is a middle grade ghost story that follows Iris. When she and her best friend go out playing in the snow at night, she realizes there is an abandoned like gravestone out there, and the gravestone doesn't have like a name on it or anything. It's unmarked. Then she starts to get basically haunted by this ghost, and you kind of have to figure out what's going on with this situation, why is the ghost hunting her, etc. This was my first time reading middle grade in a really long time, so it was like really difficult to get into at the beginning because I was like, okay, I need to shift my mindset. Once I was able to make that shift, it was so easy to get invested and lost in the story. I enjoyed Iris's character a lot. There are also a lot of other side plot lines that eventually tie into the main plot line, and I just love when stories do that because I love that feeling of being like, how does this relate? Why should I care about this? And then at the end it actually makes sense. So I really enjoyed that, and I also enjoyed the family dynamics and the friendship that she had with Daniel, who is her best friend. You also get his perspective in the book. And then Daniel kind of has his own things going on as well, so you kind of get to see how both of them are navigating what to do with this ghost spook situation. And this also had a lot more spooky elements than I was expecting because I was like, okay, this is middle grade, like nothing that is gonna give you anxiety or anything, but this was a fun ride. I really enjoyed it. I thought long and hard about giving this a star rating, but honestly I just know that I can't do that without bias. I'm always trying to make sure that I am completely like honest with you guys. There's literally no way for me to be unbiased in this situation. Check out The Forgotten Girl by Angie Hill Brown. I will leave a link down to the Goodreads below. Last and final book that I read in the month of July. I do not have a physical copy, but let me tell you, I'm on a book buying ban for August. As soon as this book buying ban ends, I am picking this book up. That is the second book in the Truly Devious series, The Vanishing Stair. If you don't know about Truly Devious, it is a mystery, a YA mystery that follows Stevie Bell, who goes off to this very famous boarding school in Vermont, and Stevie Bell is like a true crime expert, true crime fanatic, but she's never actually solved a mystery. There's actually a cold case at this school, murder and kidnapping, that was never solved in the 1930s, and she has determined that she is going to be the one to solve it. So I liked Truly Devious when it first came, when I first read it back in, I think I read it in June. I liked it when I read it, but it wasn't like mind-blowing. I still enjoyed it thoroughly. I gave it a 4 stars, enough to continue the series. But The Vanishing Stair, baby! The Vanishing Stair. This was such a good sequel and follow-up. If you've read Truly Devious and you want to know if you finally get the tea that you have been looking for, baby, you find out. You find out what you want to know but it's just the tip of the iceberg. So if you were on the fence about continuing from Truly Devious, yes, you should read book 2 in the series. This book was all plot and pacing. From the beginning of the story, it just hit the ground running. I don't feel like there was a lull in this novel. I read it in one day. It was so nice because you already had the setup. You already knew all of the characters, and I love the characters in the story. And then new characters were introduced, and I also thought they were interesting as well. I hope the last book does not let me down, but I really, I thoroughly enjoyed The Vanishing Star. I thought that it was entertaining. I felt satisfied when I found out when the dots connected. It was satisfying, and I feel like that's really important for a mystery, especially mystery series. I gave it 4.75 out of 5 stars. Those are all the books that I read in the month of July. In the month of August, I am participating in a readathon with India, the Books and Big Hairathon. It is a 24-hour readathon taking place on August 17th. So I'll leave a link down to that video below if y'all want to participate. I'm also going to be participating in ARC August. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TheBookArcher, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye!